Okay, I think we're going to get going so that we have enough time to hear from these incredible women behind me. My name is Clay Olsen, and I will be facilitating this panel, and I'm honored to. Really, it's an honor to just share the stage with these women because they've done so much in their communities, and that's kind of why you're here. What can we do? How can we make a difference in our community? So, just as way of announcement, obviously you know where the exits are as they are properly labeled. You got in through those same doors, so just be aware of that. It says that I have to say that, so I might as well say it. Remember that these events will be recorded, and it is being recorded now. So if you are interested in revisiting the information that is shared today, or if you are interested in listening to one of the speakers that you were unable to attend, those videos will be available later at utahcoalition.org. And so you will be able to see those later on the website. Just as a reminder as well that there is a tech help station for the parents who are maybe needing some of that assistance or help or curious about things regarding devices, specific devices. There is a tech help station from 10:20 to 2:55, and that is located in the upper mezzanine area. Okay, so if that's something you want to be interested in, it's free support and it's free help. Go get that. Let's see, any other announcements? It says here that if you have any feedback throughout the entire conference, please provide that. I think there's some sheets that you can fill out to provide said feedback, and that helps improve the conference each year. Okay, now to this wonderful panel. We're going to do things so that they can properly discuss their points of view and their incredible stories and tips and resources. We want to make sure that they each had a moment to speak. So each one is going to speak for 5 to 8 minutes, and then at the end, if there's time, we're going to open it up for some questions and answers, because again, the whole reason for the reason we were so excited about this particular session was because these women up here have kind of been there, done that in a lot of ways. They have gone through, in some cases, the mud and figured things out, and that have really provided a lot of resources and had an impact in their communities. And so we wanted to hear from them, as many of you are kind of thinking, I want to do something, but I have no idea where to begin. So these are the women that have kind of been there and done that. I'm going to start right here with Linda Zager. So Linda, raise your hand. Linda is amazing. She is involved with the Utah PTA. She has been involved in this issue for many years, and she's just been doing having a huge impact in her community. We've got Rebecca Pond from the Davis County area, who has also done a lot of work. She's organized events. I won't go too much into their stories because that's what they're going to do. We have Liz Passey from the Wasatch District, just over in Heber area, done a lot of incredible work. Suzanne Spencer right here. And then we have Miriam Hall, right? Yeah, Miriam Hall. Now, can we give all these women a wonderful round of applause? Again, their stories are incredible. We're going to start with Linda, and I'm going to kind of give you the notice on time, but go ahead and take it away, and then we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay. I appreciate Clay organizing this panel. It's been an honor to work with him, and I'm honored to be with all of these distinguished panelists. You must be the change you wish to see in the world. This is what Mahatma Gandhi said, and this is the reason I've been coming to UCAP conferences for so many years, to help learn how I can change myself and then try to influence my community. And I feel this quote goes along with the theme of this conference. It starts with us. We have to change ourselves, figure out what we can do better, and then try to go out in our communities and influence in loving, kind, and gentle ways. I hope as you listen to all of these panelists today, they're going to give you really wonderful ideas that when new thoughts come to you, to jot them down, because the thoughts that come to you will be more important than anything we say to you. This is one of my community heroes. This is Joanne Hibbert Hamilton. She has passed away, but she had a huge impact on my life. And she went to this is back in 2001 when I met her. She went to a conference back east that taught her what the pornography industry was doing, and she came back to Utah on fire, ready to let everybody know what was going to be happening and that we needed to prepare for it. She went around the state talking to all kinds of organizations and groups. She wrote books. She did DVDs. She became the president of American Mothers in the state of Utah, and she went around starting chapters of American Mothers and teaching the mothers how to raise the level of decency in their communities. But the reason I feel so grateful to her is how she helped me personally and my family. And I hope we remember as we are out in the community that that's why we're doing it. We're trying to help the one, the individual. We're trying to help families and children and youth. So I went to a church meeting, and she was talking to, it was a group of women, and she was talking to all of us, and she said to us, this is in 2001, before the smartphone, we had computers, and she said, your children are probably going to be exposed to pornography, and you need to talk to them before they are exposed, and you need to tell them what they need to do when they are exposed. You need to teach them to come and tell you what happened and to talk about it and get those feelings out of them so they're not festering shame or negative feelings. And I'm listening to all this, and I'm thinking, oh, this will never happen to my child. This will never happen in my family. And I went home, but I thought she was a great speaker. She gave us lots of good information. And I went home and I thought about it. And then I talked to my husband about it, and we got thinking, well, it's probably a good idea to talk to our children about bad pictures and what to do. And one night we were having a little family meeting, and we popped one of our church's videos in the machine, and it happened to have a little segment in it of a boy talking about a bad picture he'd seen and the challenges of that. And then when we finished it, we talked to our children. At that time, I had a 5th grader, a 3rd grader, a kindergartner, and some preschoolers. So we started talking to them young because of the advice of Joanne Hamilton. And that night, as we were tucking the children in bed, our 3rd grader told my husband about the pornography he'd seen that day at school on the school computer, and kind of told him how the accident happened, how the boy on the computer was doing a very innocent search, and how this popped up, and then how he couldn't get out of it, and all those things. And we handled it. My husband went to the school and told them what happened. We told the other child's parents what happened, and because we'd had that little talk, I think it gave him the courage to talk to us about it and tell us, and he didn't have all those negative emotions festering inside, not knowing what to do. So I will forever be grateful to Joanne Hamilton for what she did for me and my family and the community. There have been nearly 40 years of prevention science and social development strategies that have shown us what helps children and youth stay away from dangerous behaviors and help them create healthy behaviors. I went to a 1-hour class on all of this, and we have an organization in Utah called Parents Empowered, whose goal is to try to prevent youth from underage drinking. And these are the 3 concepts that they've chosen out of all the research to try to teach parents on the billboards, on the sides of buses, and everywhere, how to prevent, the negative behaviors or unhealthy behaviors, and to get children to choose healthy behaviors. So they stress, first thing is parents need to bond with their children and have good, healthy relationships and keep communication open. Second thing is the parents need to set clear boundaries or rules. And the third thing is parents need to monitor children's activities to see if they're staying within these boundaries. The research also went into what can schools do, what can communities do, because as the schools and the communities and their peers of our youth are taught, if they're taught the same values in all of these areas, school, community, peers, and family, then it's highly likely that they're going to choose those values. So as we increase involvement of the community and schools to teach these same values we want to teach in our family, it's going to help them. This is a resource I just want to let you know about, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures book, and the Good Pictures, Bad Pictures junior book. It's a great resource for parents to read in their families and in their homes, and it gives you ideas. If you're uncomfortable talking about pornography with your children, it gives you easy ideas of what to say and how to talk to them. I guess one of my slides is missing, but that is fine. Each of the panelists now is going to be telling you detailed ways of how you can get involved in your communities and in your schools. And I hope that I will someday hear the stories of each of you and what you did in your families and in your communities.
Thank you, Linda. My name is Suzanne Spencer, and thank you. Maybe one more time. There we go. Okay. So my name is Suzanne Spencer, and I am a wife and mother of 2 teenagers, a son who's 16 and a daughter who's 18, and a longtime PTA volunteer. Thank you. And I have been volunteering in my kids' school since my daughter was a kindergartner, and she's a senior in high school now. So it's been about 13 years that I've been volunteering in various ways in the classroom and in the PTA. And for the past 6 years, I have been in charge of putting on a White Ribbon Week at Mill Creek Junior High for 4 years, and then now I'm in my 2nd year at Bountiful High School doing that. When I did my very first White Ribbon Week, my husband and my 2 kids and I were out in front of Mill Creek Junior High on Sunday afternoon, the night before White Ribbon Week was starting, and we were tying white ribbons on the trees. And a lady walked by and she stopped and she said, "Why are you guys tying white ribbons on the trees?" And I said, "Well, it's White Ribbon Week." And she said, "Well, what is that?" And so I told her that White Ribbon Week is like Red Ribbon Week is to raise awareness about the dangers of drugs and alcohol. White Ribbon Week is an opportunity for us to go into the schools and educate the students and teach them about the dangers of pornography. And this lady with tears in her eyes just said, "Thank you so much for doing this, because it is so important." And I couldn't agree more. It is so important for us to be talking to the youth and talking to our kids, and it's appropriate at an early age, even in elementary school, to start talking about these things. And so I don't have a lot of time today to go into details about how to do a White Ribbon Week, but I'm going to advance that. I'm just going to share with you a couple of things that we have done. So we have really focused in our White Ribbon Weeks on the education. There's plenty of scientific evidence that shows us that pornography is very harmful, and we know this. And so we are trying to educate the students. And so one of the things we've done is we put up posters. During White Ribbon Week, we put these posters all over the schools, and this is just one example of the posters that we have used. And we have posters with pictures of brain scans of people who have a pornography addiction and versus a normal brain, and we put statistics. We focus a little bit on other types of internet safety, stranger danger, sexting, stuff like that too, try to bring those things in. Also, we do contests as part of our White Ribbon Week. We've done poster contests and essay contests, and we do like daily trivia questions. And This year at Bountiful High, I'm really excited. Our White Ribbon Week is starting next week. It's Monday. So we are doing a social media campaign contest this year, and we're trying to have the youth show us how they're using technology for good. And so we are encouraging them to do that, and we have prizes. And this is how we get teenagers to participate in these things. You think, how would you get a teenager to write an essay about pornography? Well, we get really good prizes. And we go around to local businesses, and I have had such a good response from the community. When we tell them what we're doing and why we're doing it, people are willing to help and support our cause. And so we've had everything from Utah Jazz tickets to lagoon passes, boondocks, I mean, you name it, we get good prizes, and it motivates the kids to get involved. I wanted to just share some resources. Next slide. Some of the resources that we have used are whiteribbonweek.org, and whiteribbonweek.org is a nonprofit organization that has created a curriculum to do White Ribbon Week, and they start in the elementary school. And this is, they have just really good ways to talk to kids about good pictures and bad pictures and arm them with some skills when they are confronted with these things. And then fight the new drug, of course. We had them come and do an assembly in the junior high, which afterwards talking to the kids was really well received. And we also had Fight the New Drug come and do a community night. So we had them come in the evening at Bountiful High School, and we invited all the students and parents at Bountiful High, and also the 3 junior highs that feed into Bountiful, as well as putting posters up around our city, and we had a really great response to that, and that was a really successful event. NetSmarts is another resource. It's an organization that's funded by the government, and so they will come in and do an assembly or a parent night for free, and they focus more on like internet safety, but I think that that's an important component that we like to include in our White Ribbon Weeks. So I just wanted to share a little personal experience that I had. Last summer, my son turned 16, and he's been wanting Instagram. And I have nothing against Instagram other than, because there's a lot of good on there, but we know anyone who's been on Instagram, there's a lot of bad. And but I thought, well, he's 16, he's probably old enough to make good choices. And so we downloaded it onto his phone. And about 2 weeks later, he came to me and he said, I think I'm going to delete Instagram. And I said, okay, that's fine, but why? And he said, well, he's like, sometimes some bad pictures show up in my feed, and I just don't want to have that temptation in my life. And then he said to me, he said, when I saw those bad pictures, I thought to myself, I can't look at these bad pictures. My mom's the White Ribbon Week lady. And that's what White Ribbon Week is all about. And it made me so happy that I was making an impact. And that's hopefully what we're doing with White Ribbon Week, is we're educating the students that when they see pornography, which we know they inevitably will, that they will stop and they'll think about it, and that they'll be empowered and educated enough to be able to turn away from it. So I just wanted to give you my personal contact information. If anyone is interested in doing a White Ribbon Week, I'm happy to answer questions or share any information that I have and share what I have done. I know it can seem overwhelming to do something and take on a project like White Ribbon Week, but it doesn't have to be big and elaborate. It can just keep it simple, and I just think doing something is better than doing nothing. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Passey. I am from the Wasatch County area, which takes up Heber and Midway. So as you know, our area, we have one high school. So we are unique in that all of our students funnel into one school. So we have this great community that always gets behind. So I want to tell you a little bit about my experience with with Fight the New Drug and kind of taking on this cause. So 2 years ago, when the governor declared that pornography was a public health crisis, I had the PTA. First of all, I'm the council PTA president, and I've done that for the last 2 years. So I am over all of the schools in our district. So I had the middle school PTA president as well as the high school president come and ask me, what can we do about this problem? And to be honest, I didn't know. And so one of them said, you know what, we have the PTA convention. There is supposed to be this breakout session with this group called Fight the New Drug. And I said, okay, I'll go to that and see what it is. So this was 2 years ago. So I went down, and I will always remember the day that I met Clay. He probably has no recollection of this. But I went to this, and I had no idea at that point how it would affect my life. And I said, this is something that we can do. Now, coming back from that conference, I was all gung-ho, ready and excited, approached our administration and several, and the response I got really was not that positive, which really surprised me. And at that point, I said, you know what? I'm not taking no for an answer. So what we did next is we did a community panel. And I think this was one of the first key things that made a difference in fighting this in our community. We gathered a whole room full of people. We had the police department, we had the health department, we invited every religious-based organization in our community. We had everyone, we had parents, and most importantly, we had students, because I wanted to find out, is this something that we want to address? Is this something? And we got done with the meeting. Clay came and spoke to us that day, and as soon as Clay sat down, our chief of police, Chief Booth, stood up and immediately said, thank you, thank you, thank you. We have been wanting to do something like this. And after that, people stood up, just like what Sister Jones said. People want to do something like this. And so we started. That's where it started in Heber and Wasatch. We had, as Clay said, lots of mud to go through. But the one thing that we knew from the very first is that we had a lot of support. And one of the things I want to talk about specifically is we wanted to get the kids involved, our high school kids. And so, because we knew we as parents are not as cool as the student body officers. So we knew that if we came with our White Ribbon Week, our Fight the New Drug shirts, it wouldn't be as cool as if we had some of our students. So I have a friend who is a photographer, a professional photographer who does a lot of commercial work, and he came. We set up a photo session in our school. Now we're going to go through some of these, and what we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that we had every social group, so that this wasn't just the student body officers. These are our Latinos in Action. Soccer, huge up in Wasatch County. These were students who were well respected in the school, in Wasatch High School. Drama is really, really big. He is actually our student body president this year and has done amazing things. This is Nick Bryan, and I want to talk about him because he was the student body president, and he took this on as his cause. These, of course, are our cheerleaders, and they wore the T-shirts that we used in there. Ours, FBLA. This is a whole nother social group of the school. We are state champions 8 years in a row for FBLA. Our band, we wanted them to be part of this. And so we have all of these kids that we use to be able to reach all of the students in the area, in our schools. And these students really, really made the difference for us, because they were the ones we wanted as adults to provide the support for them to do all the legwork. But these kids were the ones who were on the front lines. They were out there talking about the program. So in that year, we were able to do a community night. And we found out there was a lot of steps to be able to have the presentation in the school. And we did those. It took 2 years for us to be able to do this. We went through sexual education committees where we had everything approved, and we did all that we could to make sure that every student in our middle school and high school could hear this program. We knew one of the most important components of this program was parent education. And so we made sure that we had a parent education night. So this year we were able to do the presentations in the high school. This group right here is the Interact Club. This is the junior arm of the Rotary Club. Rotary Club stepped up and helped us this year, and all of these kids joined in and did all of the legwork. We distributed all of those posters throughout. They wore, for a month before the presentation, wore those t-shirts. We got t-shirts for all of them. The first time I showed up to their meeting, there were 42 kids there. And they were so excited about being part of this program. One of the girls, and I will always remember, no matter how difficult all these things we came through, sometimes I really personally wanted to give up and say, you know what, this is really not is this really worth it? And I would get one of these kids or a parent who would call me and say, please, thank you, thank you. One of these cute girls, after our first meeting, and I don't even know her name, she came up to me after our meeting and said, thank you, pornography has torn apart my family. That is why we do this. That is why we work so hard to create a voice, to do something, and to get these kids involved. Because what I have found is that these kids want the help. And we as adults are just catching up. And it is sensitive. It's a sensitive topic. But we can do this. So what now? We look forward to continuing our relationship with Fight the New Drug. We look forward, now that we have all this approved through the Sexual Health Committee, 7th and 9th graders all are in health classes. They will all receive a section on the dangers of pornography, which to me was one of the greatest successes of this whole program, because health teachers were afraid to talk about it, but not now. We have done that. So I am just thrilled to be part of this organization and to be part of this. I wouldn't have found I can't believe sometimes that I am here doing this, because 2 years ago I couldn't have even imagined I would be here. But it's a wonderful thing to be involved in, and I am so grateful. So thank you, and good luck. Take a step. Let's bring pornography out of the darkness, as Sister Jones said. Thank you.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. I'm Rebecca Pond, and I'm going to be talking about how to reach out in your community when you see something that you don't want there, and the effective way to do so. So you can do it. It's okay. All right. I'm going to teach you a method called Speak. Now, I was part of an organization for many years called Women for Decency, and one of our co-founders developed this. Okay, the first step is you need to give a sincere compliment. This is when you're writing an email, a letter, or making a phone call. You see something that you're not pleased with, and you could call with just storms ablazing, and you know what? They're just going to turn you off in here, and they're not going to hear you, and they're not going to listen, and they're going to just put you in another pile. But if you give them a sincere compliment, find something they did and give them a sincere compliment. Next. Okay, next, you need to educate them on the problem. Explain why you are writing, calling, state the problem, and explain it. Okay, next we're going to educate on the problem. This is where you expand a little bit on just, okay, I have a problem with this, and this is why. There's brain science or what have you, whatever it is that you're talking about. Okay, the next thing is you ask. You ask for the change that you want. You're asking them to remove a billboard. You're asking them to, you're not happy with this commercial. You're asking for some kind of an action. And the next thing is you give them kudos. You thank them for their consideration in listening and considering your request. Okay, so I have applied this Speak, and it has been so effective. So grateful to Shelley DeVries for coming up with this. I have used it on a level when there are Super Bowl commercials, and I get on there and I use Speak, and I have heard from their national corporate office. They've called me up. I've gotten some response. Okay, we had an experience local, and that is okay, all right. Forget with the order of my slides. This is never underestimate the power of doing the simple things the right way in a consistent manner. And that was from one of the co-founders of Women for Decency, Janelyn Holt. Okay, and it's so true. The simple things you do can make such a difference. So please do something. That's going to be the message today. All right, so one thing we did with Costa Vida, they are a local company. You know, they have restaurants all over the place. And many years ago, they had a billboard campaign. Maybe you remember it. They had 3 different billboards that they did at this time. It had Costa Vida and Come and Get Burritos, but it had a woman on a surfboard. And there were 3 different versions. Sometimes she was in a one-piece, sometimes she wasn't, sometimes she was in the bikini thing. Well, I had heard some complaints. I was in Women for Decency. Women were saying, what can we do? I want to support their food. I love to go there, but I really don't like seeing this billboard, and I don't feel comfortable, and I don't think that is what they want to represent. It doesn't say anything about tacos. What does this have to do with it? So I started to say, okay, now where did you see the billboard? And, you know, from Logan to St. George, they had these billboards. And I finally drove by one, and I thought, okay, so I called up. We taught them about Speak, and we asked these women, we told them what to do. And I waited, and I stepped back, and I waited, and pretty soon I drove by, and the billboard was gone, and it hadn't been up very long. So I called the corporate office, and I started with Speak, and I gave them a sincere compliment because I love their raspberry chicken chipotle. I mean, I was honest. You have to find something honest. And then I started talking to them, and I said, you know, I just need to ask you, these billboards have disappeared, and I just wondered if I could ask you why. And they said, we love our customers. And they said, we don't like this, and we listened. That doesn't always happen, but it can, and especially you have more power the closer you are. A Utah company, your neighborhood, your city, you have more power. And so phone calls make a difference, and doing it in the right way, writing letters and emails make a difference. Okay, now I'm going to tell you about something else. All right, this says, be willing to search out something that doesn't ring true. This is my own quote on there. And this is an experience we had from WebMD magazine. These are magazines that are free in the doctor's offices. It was brought to our attention that there was an article in there that said porn is healthy for the male brain. Women, you got to get on board and don't give your guy a hard time. Here's the study, and here's the doctor, and here's this proof. Now, I knew Fight the New Drug, and I knew these other like-minded organizations, and I knew that wasn't true. And I thought, people are going to look at this magazine. It's free in the doctor's office, and this is going to affect people. This upsets me, but now I have to back up and give you a little background of me. So I graduated from the University of Utah. I studied sociology, and one of our classes is called Research Methods. And I thought, well, I'm not going to be a researcher. I cannot tell you how handy that has come. And I'm now going to give you the tips so you can go out and put on your researcher hat and follow through. So as I look at that and I see that research has been done by Dr. So-and-so, I want to know, who is Dr. So-and-so? And I'm going to find out. I'm going to research who is asking for this study to be done, what's their bias, and who's paying for it. Please ask these questions. So, WebMD story. I studied that doctor. I found that doctor, and boy, did she have a degree. And it was from the University of Erotica, Las Vegas, Nevada. This is true. This is true. Okay, but who's going to look that up? Who's going to search that out? I am begging you, do not take this study and this much percent of that. It's just not what you need to accept is the truth. So after that, we went after IHC, we went to Tanner Clinic where my kids were going, and we said, hey, there's this magazine here, and this is why it needs to be removed. They were removed. They were removed. And when I went to a different Tanner Clinic, and accidentally one had found its way, and I was holding it, and I went up to the desk. They said, oh my goodness, what is that doing here? We were told to remove all of those. So they will listen to you. These are the differences that you can make. Because I am a mother of 7 children, and they know that I care about studies and what have you. My daughter had a friend, married, having marital problems, went to counseling. They were told that pornography will be a good thing for your relationship because you're having issues. And they quoted a study, and they quoted a BYU professor. My daughter called me in such uproar and upset. I didn't jump in and try to fix it and do the research, but I told her, remember what you need to do, find out who this is and who's saying this and why. So she looked up and found the study. She asked her friend for a copy, got the study, saw the professor's name, she wrote to him, and she told him what her friends had been told. He immediately wrote back. She didn't know that she'd hear from him. He immediately wrote back, and he said, I have been misquoted, and would you like to see the study? She said, absolutely. He sent her 70 pages instantly. Unfortunately, it didn't save this relationship. The relationship was over. Of course, the advice was not safe. Anyway, we're all fighters here. We are all going to join on the bandwagon. We are all fans of Fight the New Drug, and I love seeing your shirts out there. What I want to say is it can be simple, but start at your home with your own family. Expand it out to your neighborhood, the schools, your community. Try to save the world. Isn't that what we all want to do? But let's start one little bite at a time. You can do it. We can be fighters. Let's do it together.
Hi, everyone. I'm really happy and excited to be here. My name is Miriam Hall. I'm 18 years old, and I'm a senior at Springville High School. And as you can probably see, I'm the current Miss Springville Mapleton. And my pageant service platform is Education on the Harms of Pornography. And I'd first really quick like to acknowledge my cousin, who is my inspiration for that platform. She's here. And also, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to speak quickly. That's because I have a lot of information to get through. So if we have time afterwards for a Q&A, I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. So before I get going, there's a couple of things I would like you guys to understand. The first is there are tons of ways to help educate your family and others on how to on the harms of pornography and how they can protect themselves, as you've heard from many of these women. And I'll tell you from my experience, you can do something that we've done, or you can start with your own idea. And so just know that you're not limited to things that you've heard today. And the second is, it's totally fine to not know where to start. When I won Miss Springville Mapleton, I was 17 years old and a junior in high school. So I can tell you, I had no idea what I was doing. I knew what I wanted to do, but I really had no idea how I was going to go about doing it. And so I'm going to give you a quick overview of the stuff that I wanted to accomplish. Okay, so I wanted to bring Fight the New Drugs assemblies to every junior high and high school in Springville and Mapleton, and I wanted to bring parent presentations to each city. So that ended up being 10 total Fight the New Drug presentations. Go ahead. And I also wanted to bring the books Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, Porn-Proofing Today's Young Kids, and the junior book of that version of that book to all of the elementary school libraries in Springville and Mapleton. So after looking at all these big things that I wanted to do, I just thought, where am I going to get all of the money for this? This is going to be very expensive. So I am going to outline to you today how I ended up raising over $6,000 to cover the costs of these, and how you can also raise money for the events and things that you want to get done in your community. The first thing that I started with was writing a 2-page sponsor letter. And those were sent out to all of the businesses in Springville and Mapleton. Cities normally have lists of all the businesses that are in the city, and those usually include addresses, phone numbers, and emails. And on that letter that I wrote to them, I included who I was, what I wanted to accomplish, what the impact would be of my accomplishments, and then what some benefits were that the companies would get from becoming a sponsor. So that included companies would be displayed on a banner that would be hung at all of the Fight the New Drug assemblies. And all of their donations were tax deductible. So those were great deals for the companies to become a sponsor. And it also included my contact information at the bottom of the first page. The second page was a form that business owners could fill out when making a sponsor donation. And that included different sponsor amounts and types. Because some big companies can fund an entire Fight the New Drug assembly, but some small companies can only pay for a couple of books. And so giving some different sponsor amounts and types offered businesses flexibility on how they could donate. And when I printed it out, I printed the form on a different color of paper so that it would stand out from the letter. Next one. Oh yeah. Okay, so I started dropping these letters off at businesses, and that was really time-consuming and really difficult to do. And so instead, I chose 80 businesses on these lists to mail the sponsor letters to. And that was more efficient, but it was also expensive because stamps add up. And so I just started emailing PDFs of the letters to the businesses because the business list included emails. And every time we contacted a business, we had to follow up a lot. So every time you make a contact, follow up, follow up, follow up. Because usually in a lot of cases, the initial information only reaches a secretary or a manager. And so following up usually guarantees that the information will reach the decision maker of the company or the owner so that you can actually get a definite yes or no. So we also found that when we had a supportive business who wanted to sponsor, we asked them for referrals for other like-minded individuals in their kind of business niche, and that helped us also get a lot of sponsors that way. In addition, I started a GoFundMe account to help parents donate to these projects that I wanted to do. And that's definitely the easiest way to raise money, but it actually doesn't raise a lot of money in a lot of cases, and it was less reliable, and it was much easier just to get a sponsor, a solid sponsor for the events. And so GoFundMe also has withdrawal fees, and so if you start a GoFundMe, you have to raise more money than originally expected because you have to raise money for your event and to cover the costs or the fees. So even though GoFundMe can be very effective, I found it was a little more successful to raise money other ways. So several months later, all 10 Fight the New Drug assemblies were funded by sponsors, and they were scheduled to take place during the beginning of this past October. And those students would be attending the assemblies in school. I wanted parents to come to the parent presentations and adults in our community regardless of whether they had a child attending the high school or the junior highs. So I wrote a letter. Did we already? Okay. Just a second. Okay, great, thank you. I wrote a letter informing parents about the dates and times and basic content of the presentations, and I made 5,800 copies of that letter, and I sent it home with all of the elementary school kids in Springville and Mapleton. And we also forwarded a PDF of the information since we found out that emailing was very effective. We emailed that to all of the administrative secretaries of the junior highs and high schools, and they put it in their weekly announcements and in a separate email to parents just so we knew the information got across. And in addition, go ahead. I wrote articles about the presentations, and they were published in local newspapers, and I spread the word on social media. So you can see there's tons and tons of ways to advertise for events and things that you want to do in your community. Go ahead. After the assemblies were over, I focused on, oh yeah, never mind. These are the ways to advertise for events, so you can welcome to take a picture of that really quick. After the assemblies were over, I focused on getting the Good Pictures, Bad Pictures and Good Pictures, Bad Pictures junior books for the elementary schools in Springville and Mapleton. I originally wanted to get them for the elementary school libraries, but that would have required them to be approved by the Nebo District Board because we're in the Nebo School District. And they looked through the books and they found them entirely appropriate, but they decided not to endorse the books for the schools, and instead they let PTAs act independently to raise money for the books. Glen Cove Press, which is the company that publishes the Good Pictures, Bad Pictures books, has a 45% discount on bulk orders of the books. So that means that instead of costing $17 per book, the books only cost $10 each, which is a fantastic savings. And PTAs can use this deal to raise money for their organization and give a discount to parents. For example, if PTAs were to buy a bulk order of books and then sell them to parents for $12 each, that means that parents would still get a $5 savings and the PTA would get $2 from each purchase. And so it ends up being a win-win situation in both cases. I wrote all this information out and gave it to PTAs in Springville and Mapleton, along with sponsored copies of Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior, and I'm hoping that they'll start book drives in our community to help give this discount to parents. There's also other ways. Oh, so this is the sponsor banner that I noted earlier for the Fight the New Drug assemblies. That was hung at 10 presentations. Okay, so there's also other ways you can support besides doing something that requires money. For example, the city of Provo passed a resolution about the harms of pornography a few years ago, and you could present a similar resolution to be passed by your city council or even community council. You can also support political leaders and bills that encourage education on the harms of pornography. So for example, just 2 days ago, there was a bill that was passed and now only needs to be signed by the governor, called House Bill 286, and it will incorporate education on the harms of pornography into all Utah health classes. And this was inspired by a mom who's just concerned that this topic wasn't being talked about in schools enough. And so just know that no matter your station or no matter who you are, your experience, you can absolutely make a difference in our community and state, which is amazing. So I hope my remarks were helpful, and I'm grateful to these ladies for also showing us how they make a difference, and thank you.
Thank you. Let's give another round of applause for everyone that spoke here. I want to make sure, well done. Are you still 17, Miriam? I'm 18. Okay, the energy and passion that you have is just incredible at that age. I don't know what I was doing, but it wasn't that. So, so amazing work. I want to make sure that we understand that I love what Miriam said at the end there. One of my favorite quotes is from a man by the name of, he's passed, of course, but Edward Everett Hale. He says that, I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And I will not let what I cannot do interfere with what I can do. And so sometimes we think we're just one person. I don't have a platform. I'm not in politics. I'm not a member of the PTA. I'm not, whatever the excuse is. And I can tell you, story after story after story of individuals that were just passionate on their own that said, what can I do? And I want to make sure, there was mention, because a lot of these women have worked with the schools and with our organization, Fight the New Drug, but there are so many things that can be done that come out of your own brain that you can do, that you don't have to rely on other organizations. There's so many amazing booths out there representing resources, powerful resources that you can implement. And so I think the most, Miriam said this as well, you don't have to limit yourself to what you heard today. I think there's so many amazing opportunities, a lot of things that are happening. It can involve the schools, it can involve your family, as Linda talked about, and it can involve your community as a whole. We've been fed really well, and we have a few minutes left, and I want to leave this to ask a few questions. If you had I get what you did, but can you tell me who I contacted, or any specific questions that you might have? These women are here. Let's ask them. They gave you their contact information to follow up as well, but does anyone have any questions right here now? Yeah. That was for Liz. So the mud, yeah.
What I have found is that the handful of people who, for whatever reason, it's a very sensitive topic, that do not want this talked in schools, they can be very loud. And the people that are for it can be quiet. And so social media is awesome. It's a great way to get out, but it's also a hotbed for debates, and it's a difficult place. And so what we did when I talked about the mud, is that I was really specific. I will talk to anyone who wants to talk to me, the administrators, but we will not debate this on Facebook, because a lot of people just want to debate. Put it out there. You know how many people contacted me? This many. 0. We had 3 people who came to the district, who talked to the district, and for whatever reason, but we were very specific. We made sure that there was an opt-out activity for children, and whose parents didn't. We respect all parents. If this is not right for your child, we respect that. But that mud, those voices are very loud, screaming, and the others, sometimes we feel like we can't speak up. And so we need to speak up. And it was interesting on these social media sites, I'll be really quick. Once people started talking and speaking up, the flood of support was amazing. But it sometimes takes that first person to say, this is awesome, thank you for doing this, and then it starts.
Okay, I wanted to too, so I'll pass it. But I found opposition when I tried to bring Fight the New Drug to my junior highs and high schools from the administration. And I think it was fear that they were going to have a ton of complaints from the parents about this. And so what I did is I went to the council level of PTA, because the principals come to that meeting in addition to the parents. And I did a little video clip and told them about the presentation of Fight the New Drug. And when those administrators heard the parents in that meeting that they wanted this, then they were finally ready to do it. And he said to allay any fears, we would send out emails to the parents in advance about it. So if they didn't want their student to go to it, they didn't have to. And we would have a parent meeting before, so they would all be educated on the issue, and be able to know what was going to be said, so they would not have as many fears.
I always told my council member, I will wear the target. I sometimes felt like I had the bullseye, and I would wear the bullseye again.
So I also experienced a lot of opposition getting the Fight the New Drug assemblies to the junior highs and high schools in Springville, Mapleton. But some of it actually was just because of a misunderstanding that I didn't realize before. So one of the junior highs initially told me no, that they were grateful for what I was supporting, but they didn't want the assembly. And so I went up and I spoke with the administrator in her office, and I just asked, what is it about the assembly that makes it so you don't want to have it here? And she said, well, we support this. She said, but we're already doing a NetSmarts assembly for White Ribbon Week. And she said, I think that's sufficient. And I was able to tell her, actually, since I've been a student, I've seen that NetSmarts assembly, and it's all about internet safety, but it doesn't mention pornography specifically, or as in-depth as Fight the New Drug is. So it would actually be an advantage if you brought Fight the New Drug, because it would tie perfectly with the NetSmarts assembly. And she said, oh, that sounds awesome. I'll talk to the principal about it. So she talked to the principal about it, and they asked for 2 assemblies. And so just asking people what their stance is on maybe some miscommunications can be really helpful.
Do you have any thoughts?
I was just going to. Up at Wasatch, we have both NetSmarts as well as we did Fight the New Drug. So we did them both, and they complement each other very, very well.
Are there any other questions? We have probably one more. Yeah, right here.
I don't know how many of you did this with young children. I guess I just don't really know what to do. I don't have a kid in school, but I want to do something.
I would say get that book, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, Junior. And if you're comfortable with everything in the book, you could read it with them. I think it's a very good way to introduce them to the topic.
So there's several, I'll just real quick, there's several out here. One is Protect Young Minds, which wrote the Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. There's another one called Educate and Empower Kids, which has another series of books to educate young kids as well, very good. And there's several others out there that have things for that age demographic, wonderful resources. And a lot of these organizations have volunteer opportunities to reach out and say, how can we they have events going on that you could volunteer for. They have projects that they're working on. And there's even, groups that aren't represented here on the national level if you're interested on those things. Every organization has ways that they can involve volunteers. So if you're just wanting to have an impact in any possible way, it can happen on the local level of volunteering for any one of these types of efforts, or on an organizational level. So there's lots of opportunities. I think we are out of time, but again, thanks to our panelists here, these wonderful women that have done such a great job. Let's give them a round of applause. And thank you guys for attending, and they'll probably be here for a little bit to ask questions if you want. Thank you.